It took years for Daredevil to get a proper revival after the Netflix series was canceled back in 2018, but thankfully, Daredevil Born Again is defying modern streaming series norms, with Season 2 coming to Disney Plus just 1 year after the show's first season. Still, there was a lot tackled in that season, and given the amount of media we're all intaking at any given moment, we're guessing you could probably use a refresher on where we left off with the Man Without Fear and his friends and enemies. So let's take a look back at Matt Murdock's journey to date in his first proper Kevin Feige-produced Marvel Studios project with a recap of Daredevil Born Again's story so far. Since the Netflix Daredevil series ended in 2018, we'd gotten a few appearances of Matt Murdock and his alter ego in projects like Spider-Man No Way Home, She-Hulk Attorney at Law,
hey, maybe next time I'm in town I can take you out to dinner,
and in Echo. But Daredevil Born Again finally also brought back his pals Foggy Nelson and Karen Page, who we'd last seen deciding to restart their law firm with Matt under the expanded name Nelson, Murdock, and Page. And it seemed like things were going good with the trio a few years later, both personally and professionally, even as Matt and Karen still danced around their continued attraction to each other and the hesitation to act on it. But alas, Matt Murdock's life can never stay happy for too long, with trouble rising again thanks to a case Foggy was working on.
No, just stay there.
In the aftermath of Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, being shot by Echo, and his recuperation and the journey to Oklahoma he took, his wife, Vanessa, had begun to fully run his criminal organization in his absence. And with Wilson increasingly acting distant, Vanessa began having an affair with a man named Adam, while also coming to realize the Fisk family's criminal activities were in danger of being undone by a client of Foggy's, Benny Cafaro, who could reveal the truth about how the Fisks had been using Red Hook Port as a cover for their illicit activities. And to put a stop to this, without her husband's knowledge, she hired Benjamin Dex Poindexter, aka Bullseye, to kill both Benny and Foggy, while first helping get Dex freed from the mental institution he'd been locked up in.
Called Benjamin Cafaro and his lawyer, Foggy Nelson.
At Matt, Foggy, and Karen's usual hangout, Josie's Bar, Bullseye's merciless attack sadly does indeed take out Foggy, along with several other bystanders, leading to a furious fight between Bullseye and a vengeance-fueled Daredevil. Matt has always refused to kill his enemies, but his pain over his best friend's death caused him to actively attempt to cross that line with Bullseye, who he dropped from a building, although the durable Dex did survive. In his anguish, Daredevil took off his helmet, leading to his identity being discovered by retired NYPD Detective Cherry, who knew Matt and did keep his secret.
Matt.
The loss of Foggy had huge ramifications, with Nelson, Murdock, and Page being shut down, and the grieving Karen moving away to San Francisco. Matt once more decided to stop being Daredevil and formed the new law firm Murdock and McDuffie with his friend, Kirsten McDuffie, while employing Cherry as a private investigator. During this time, Wilson Fisk had worked hard to fully rehabilitate his image after deciding to run for mayor of New York, telling Vanessa he felt they would need to step away from actively being involved in the criminal empire they'd been running in order to protect his reputation.
It's time.
And while Daredevil was no longer fighting crime, an increasing number of costume vigilantes in New York now included the likes of Hector Ayala, aka the White Tiger, and the wealthy Jack Duquesne, whose experience helping fight the Kingpin-backed tracksuit mafia, alongside Kate Bishop, had eventually led to him becoming a masked swordsman known as, well, the Swordsman.
Are you okay?
Never been better. Oh no!
A year after Foggy's death, Matt begins dating therapist Heather Glenn. Fisk, meanwhile, has assembled a new inner circle that includes the young and ambitious Daniel Blake, the ruthless Buck Cashman, who's on hand if Fisk needs to delve into his old ways a bit more directly, and longtime political advisor Sheila Rivera, who finds herself increasingly challenged by Fisk's highly unorthodox ways.
If we could get back to the agenda?
With the tide of the election turning in Fisk's favor, Matt requests a meeting, and having spent so much time at each other's throats, the two old enemies are amused at where they find themselves, though Matt also warns Fisk that while he'd like to believe his claims that he's changed his ways, he'll be ready for him if he proves to be lying. But Fisk in turn warns Matt that as mayor he will have zero tolerance for costume vigilantes.
I will not tolerate people running around in silly costumes.
Soon after, Fisk does indeed win and becomes New York's new mayor, though Vanessa is not exactly thrilled. Fisk ends up revealing to her that he knows about the affair with Adam, and when Vanessa asks that Adam not be killed, he promises that he won't be, Of course, that doesn't stop him from secretly keeping Adam his prisoner. And though Wilson and Vanessa certainly have enough reasons to go to therapy, Wilson manipulates it so they specifically go to Heather, working to get her to see him sympathetically as he plays up the violence that he suffered at the hands of a vigilante.
I'm here because I don't want to lose my wife.
When Hector Ayala intervenes in what looks like a mugging, it leads to the inadvertent death of one of the assailants, who turns out to be a cop, and Matt is hired to defend Hector. Learning the truth about Hector's alter ego from Cherry, Matt takes the big risk of revealing Hector is the White Tiger during the trial, successfully using Hector's history of heroism throughout the city to get him acquitted. However, in retribution, Hector is murdered soon after by one of a growing number of violent local cops who wear the logo of the Punisher, believing they operate in the same manner that Frank Castle does. Though he can't help but get involved in some physical altercations from time to time, Matt still resists becoming Daredevil again, even as the city is stalked by a killer known as Muse, someone who uses the blood of his victims as part of the art he's leaving all around the city. But Matt's discovery of the Punisher logo on the bullet casing that killed Hector has him seek out Frank Castle, who once more tries to push his own darker, more murderous path on Matt, insisting Foggy's death weighs on him more than he'll admit. While Matt leaves their meeting very much rejecting becoming another Punisher, he does begin to train with his Daredevil Billy Club again. During an adventure that was mostly standalone in nature, although it did involve some criminals working for Luca, a member of Fisk's organization who was badly in need of money the Fisks were ordering him to pay, Matt has to use some quick thinking to take down a group of bank robbers, getting assistance from kindly assistant bank manager Yusuf Khan. Yusuf, of course, is the father to Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel, and this experience together leads Yusuf to invite Matt over for dinner with his family. Dang, Matt, I mean, between Spider-Man, She-Hulk and Hulk, and now Miss Marvel, you've got quite the list of fellow superheroes and their families you're hanging out with for such a brooding guy.
Jen, I could use a co-counsel here.
At an event with New York's elite, including Jack, and hey, Dana from the pit, Fisk learned how much resistance there still was to the changes he was trying to push through in the city, including his project to pour money into Red Hook Port and his focus on targeting vigilantes. Fisk then went about forming his special anti-vigilante task force, made up of violent and corrupt police officers like Connor Powell, who tried to blame Hector for the death of his partner, and Cole North, the cop who actually killed Hector. When Muse takes Angela Del Toro, Hector's niece, Matt decides the time has come to finally once more don the Daredevil costume instead of calling the cops. Or, as Matt puts it, Daredevil is able to save Angela from Muse and his creepy, blood-draining ways, though the well-trained Muse more than holds his own in their fight, and he does manage to escape, while Fisk learns that Matt has resumed the costumed identity that he loathes so much.
He's back.
Has his alter ego Bastian Cooper, Muse then approaches Heather under the guise of seeking therapy before revealing who he really is, taking her captive and intending to kill her and drain her blood for his next dark piece of art. Matt arrives as Daredevil and the two fight once more before Heather shoots and kills Muse. And in the aftermath, Heather lets it be known to Matt that she sees both Muse and Daredevil as similar violent threats, further embracing Fisk's anti-costume vigilante philosophies. And it seems like maybe she's on the road to figuring out that Matt is Daredevil?
You think he said my name?
Who?
Daredevil.
With the bank robbery a bust, Luca dared to tell Fisk he would not pay his debt, believing he had an ally in Vanessa, because he'd seen her own frustrations with how Fisk had them now operating versus when she was in charge. And she tells him where to go to kill Fisk, but it's a trap that Vanessa and Fisk set together, and Buck takes out Luca instead.
Thank you, Buck.
Wanting to fully mend things between them, Fisk reveals to Vanessa that he has Adam held captive, and Vanessa decides she's willing to wipe the slate clean the Fisk way by, naturally, killing Adam herself. Aw, look at these two sickos reconnecting over murder. Beginning to realize there is more to Foggy's death, Matt visits Dex in prison, wanting him to admit, incorrectly, sorry Matt, that it was Wilson Fisk who hired him to kill Foggy. Matt ends up hurting Dex, who uses his trip to the prison infirmary to break out soon after in a classic Bullseye manner. At a ball for the mayor, Matt uses his powers to eavesdrop on the Fisks, and he finds out that it was Vanessa who ordered the hit on Foggy. Moments later, Bullseye attempts to kill the Fisks, with Kingpin's life only being saved when Matt takes the bullet meant for his longtime enemy. But sorry, Matt, this hardly has Wilson filled with gratitude, because not only does he decide to drop any pretense of playing by the rules when it comes to hunting down vigilantes,
There'll be no body cams, no due process, no warrants!
but Fisk decides he wants Matt killed in his hospital bed to make it look like the heroic lawyer died thanks to a costumed maniac, both to remove any more Daredevil problems and also because it'll further Fisk's agenda, all while Fisk causes a citywide blackout to justify sealing off the city and increase the public's panic and thereby their reliance on him to be the one to help. As Fisk hopes, the blackout causes looting and rioting, with his police force brazenly killing and framing suspects, labeling them as more masked vigilantes.
Jesus, Bert, he's just a kid. No. He's a masked vigilante.
Matt, in the meantime, escapes back to his home, where none other than the Punisher is there to help him, even while members of the anti-vigilante task force, led by Cole, arrive to kill Matt. Of course, now these guys are about to take on both Daredevil and the Punisher together and learn the folly of their ways. Even though Daredevil realizes that it's Cole who killed Hector, he still resists Frank's urging to outright murder Cole. But moments later is the end for both Cole and for Matt's apartment, as Daredevil and the Punisher barely escape when a grenade is thrown inside. Matt and Frank are then brought to safety by the surprise return of Karen Page, who was the one who called Frank to ask him to help Matt after she heard Bullseye had escaped.
Get in.
Shotgun.
Matt and Karen then find the files for Foggy's case, realizing the full extent of what he was uncovering about Red Hook Port and how its status as a free port, exempt from US jurisdiction, is allowing the Fisks to use it as a hub for all sorts of illegal activity. Frank, in the meantime, directly attacks the anti-vigilante task force on his own, only to be captured by them, with Pal trying to recruit Frank by pulling the old "we're not so different, you and I" routine, and calling Frank an inspiration to them all.
Out of your fucking mind, you know that? You're a bunch of clowns, you know that?
So that's a maybe, right, Frank? Oh, and in the midst of all of this, we should mention that young journalist B.B. Urich has befriended Daniel Blake, using him for access to Fisk and to get continued information on Fisk's activities. Though she feigns ignorance, she very correctly believes that Fisk is the one who killed her uncle, reporter Ben Urich, and she's been playing the long game to help take Fisk down. She makes contact with Police Commissioner Gallo, who's staunchly anti-Fisk, and he is willing to give BB information about the members of the anti-vigilante task force in order to use it against the mayor, but that never comes to be, because Gallo also makes the mistake of turning to Sheila for support, only for her to decide to fully embrace the dark side and go all in on the awfulness she has seen swirling around her boss, telling Fisk about Gallo's plans to go to the governor for help. And Fisk swiftly puts a stop to Gallo giving up any valuable info on him by literally tearing Gallo's face apart in what may be the gnarliest, nastiest moment in any MCU project to date.
Any questions?
When Daredevil and Karen find the anti-vigilante task force, Matt has to listen to reason when Karen notes he's both vastly outnumbered and he's currently nursing a very recent gunshot wound, and he'd be destined to lose this fight if he rushed in alone.
I'm gonna take this city back, Karen. We need an army.
The next morning, Fisk recruits Heather as his new Commissioner of Mental Health. And though we never saw her and Matt officially break up, it sure wasn't looking good. And then Fisk announces his so-called Safer Streets initiative, declaring all vigilante activity is illegal while putting New York City under martial law.
Never forget, I love New York.
At Josie's, Matt and Karen begin to gather a resistance to Fisk, which includes Cherry, a few other anti-Fisk cops, and oh hell yeah, is that Jessica Jones sitting at the bar? Oh wait, no, it's another cop, Angie Kim, who's a pal of Cherry's, and that's cool, but wouldn't Matt want his superpowered buddies to help too? Well, good thing Jessica is on her way in season 2. In the meantime, we left off with things looking bleak for most of the main characters, with even Bullseye sharing in this glumness. But things are going great for Wilson and Vanessa Fisk, who toast to their marriage, to controlling the city, and of course to evil, as we also see they've taken several power players prisoner, including Jack and Frank. But Frank's captivity doesn't last that long, as he lures a gullible guard close, the better to get the drop on him and escape off to his own adventures, both in his upcoming Disney Plus special and in Spider-Man Brand New Day. But as for Matt and his resistance group against the Kingpin, we'll see how they progress when Daredevil Born Again returns for season 2 on March 24th. And to keep up with all things Daredevil, keep it here at IGN.